Hey everyone. So, this one's kind of an interesting one. It was inspired by something that a friend of mine posted to Facebook, saying that he was concerned about the amount of time compression that's going on in comic books. I mean, after all, the way he put it was that if you accept that everything fit into a 5-year time frame in DC, and then also accept that everything still happened, which it didn't, then Justice League International would have taken place within about 2 weeks. And I think that might have been a bit of an exaggeration, but I think he's also right. Time compression is becoming a bit of a problem in American superhero comics. And I've been thinking about this a lot as somebody who really likes comics and would hate to see the medium die. And so I got to thinking, what do we need to do with comics? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is we need to re-diversify. Webcomics are already doing this to a great extent. I'm sorry that I'm gesturing to the right a lot. That's actually where the screen is now, because I've decided to plug it into the main monitor with some of the redecorating I've done that you might see behind me. Comic and fantasy novel shelf. Role-playing game bookshelf. Important shelves. That's what they are. You also may notice a heavy weapons guy holding down the fort there. But yes, important stuff. Comics. And specifically the fact that somebody pointed out to me that now getting about 70,000 people to read a comic when it comes out that month is a pretty good number, and I can't blame them for that. I mean, at $3 to $5 a pop, let's assume $5, let's say it's a special edition issue, 70,000 copies is quite a bit of money, even if you're assuming only half of it being profit. With that, we would keep in mind that, $350,000, that's a good chunk for an issue, especially if you're a bigger company that's releasing about 5 issues a week. But then, somebody pointed out that back in the 70s, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen from DC Comics was canned for only getting 200,000 copies. Nobody sells 200,000 copies anymore. At all. You know how crazy that is, the idea of selling 200,000 copies unless it's an event book or a number one? And Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen was selling that. Why? I think our biggest thing is the fact that we are not focusing on all the audiences we can. If I go to Barnes & Noble, I will see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shelves of nothing but manga. No, sorry, when I say shelves, I mean bookshelves, shelving units of nothing but manga. And then we get over to the comics, and they're typically down to 3 shelving units. And that's because this Barnes & Noble has a much nicer comic section than some of them. Some of them only have 2 shelves. I've seen one with only 1 shelf. So, if we're assuming that the shelving units have about 6 spots each, 6 layers, and that we're looking at, manga getting, 30 different sections filled with manga, and then American comics are only getting maybe 18, and that's at a good one. At a bad one, you might get as low as 6 spots for American comics. Part of that is the genres. Some of the best, most critically acclaimed comics lately have been busting out of the superhero genre. They haven't been superhero genre. The Walking Dead is clearly survival horror. You have things like Saga, which is much more a sci-fi space opera meets romance. Rat Queens or Pathfinders comic, which are purely adventure comics in the classic pulp vein. It's the indie companies that's making most of these. And the indie companies are doing pretty good from what I can tell. Places like Dynamite, Image, Boom, Dark Horse. Despite Dark Horse losing Star Wars, they're still doing pretty good with things like Hellboy or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. What I think we need to see for the medium to survive, especially if we want to keep going with the big 2 as our frontliners, we need to see more comics aimed at more demographics, better marketing of those comics. And then, even then, if we stay in the superhero genre, obviously people want superhero comics. You're looking at, I wrote these down, you have Man of Steel, a movie that I'm not too fond of because it's not quite Superman to me, but it's a decent action movie. That got $291 million domestic. That's an insane amount of money. If we assume that movie tickets are about $6, right? That's just an assumption, but 291 million divided by, let's say, $6 a pop, you're looking at well over 4 million views of that movie. And I'm talking people paid money to go see this. If you look at the Avengers, that one made 201 million in the first weekend. Do you know how crazy that is? The first weekend. Holy crow. That kind of money you would never see a comic book pulling. Even the super special edition, first issue, variant cover, crossover comics. That doesn't happen at all. Why not? People obviously want superhero stories. $201 million worth of people wanted a superhero story out of the Avengers, something they had to have built up to, something that they would have probably seen at least Iron Man before, if not Captain America, Hulk, Incredible Hulk, not Hulk. That Hulk was terrible. Incredible Hulk, Thor, Iron Man 2. That was a 5-movie build-up. It took us 5 movies to get to the Avengers. Obviously, we want something we can sink our teeth into. Obviously, we want something big. So why aren't we getting that in comics anymore? Why are we getting retcon reboots? Why are we getting stagnation? Why are we getting people telling us that comics are meant for 45-year-old men? I'm not a 45-year-old man. I will be in 22 years. 21 and a half years. 21 and a half years. What am I supposed to do in the 2 decades till then? Well, I think obviously what I would have to do is stop liking comics, according to some people. Alternatively, we can broaden our horizons. We can make more comics in more genres, like the independent creators are doing, like the independent companies are putting out there. And then we can go forward from there. And if you're the sort of person who wants comics to be insular and say, no, we don't want those people with us, leave.